Today what we are going to focus on is setting up your course in Blackboard, and this is going to be after the course has already been created. And we're really going to focus on getting your course set up so it is friendly for your instructor, and this is good information for developers because you might be the ones up as well. And this has come from a lot of trial and error that we've discovered as we've been setting up IDLE. So today we are looking at setting up courses in Blackboard. This is webinar 3 in our Blackboard Basics webinar series. This is me. That's my smiling face at you, so you can put a face to the name. I still have people coming in, and I see you all, so all of your names are being recorded. Thank you so much. So a little bit about me. For those of you who've been to my other webinars, you've already seen this, but we have a lot of new folks in here this time. So my name is Monica Garcia. I am the Online Learning Course Director, and I am, still have no visual of the slides. Does anyone else see the slides? That's what you should see. You should see my picture. Okay. It might be minimized, so make sure that you don't have something in the bottom left-hand corner where you have a minimal thing. So if you can see my super smiley face, then you're good. So as I was saying, I am the Online Learning Course Director in Faculty Development, and my job is basically to oversee our online learning courses. The analysis of online learning, the instructor developer of online learning are two businesses. But what we have found is that Blackboard seems to kind of be the Achilles heel for a lot of people because there isn't a lot of training. And so I have taken the task of helping you all navigate Blackboard in all of its greatness and its quirks. So I do have several certificates that I've taken in Blackboard, several certifications, as well as a lot of time just playing around with the system. And especially with our AETC license, there are a lot of things that we do not actually have access to that a lot of training will tell you about. So what I like to do is share how we have, and that way when you get in there, you have a kind of familiarity with what is available to you and what you can do in the system. Okay, so our next slide, and you can't see anything. Sometimes the slides are hidden at the bottom. So they might be accidentally minimized. Another thing to do is possibly log out and log back in, and it could reset everything. Okay, so y'all are ready to go. Outstanding. Heck yes. I know. Let's get this party started because Blackboard is awesome and it's super exciting. Let's get this party rolling. So really quick, just so I can get a gauge on what your experience is. I know we have a range of experience everywhere from, we have Blackboard administrators to being brand new. And I see a couple here, no experience, zero, zip, zilch, never set up a Blackboard course. A couple who have set up 2 courses. All right, so we have a whole range of experience. So I'm really going to try and break it down to the simplest terms that I possibly can. That's why I like creating those guides. So what you're going to see today is that a lot of what I talk about is kind of minimized since we have a small window of time. And so those uh, guides that I've sent you are really extensive and they have a lot of instructions on how to do things. Also, what I'm going to do today is I set up a demonstration course. It is a brand new course shell that I created, and I'm going to start utilizing that to start showcasing how to do a lot of things so you can see what it looks like from a blank course and where you need to go in order to accomplish some of the things that we're going to talk about. So next month, today I'm not going to show you exactly how to create a course shell. And no, it doesn't work very well in the AFNet. Someone mentioned it doesn't work very well in the AFNet. No, unfortunately it doesn't. It's very slow, but we got to work with what we got. But as I was saying, um, this month I'm not going to actually show you how to create a course shell. That is next month. Next month I will actually be walking through the process of how to create a course from scratch, as well as how to do course copies. So today is really simplified information, not simplified, but really focused on what do you do after you get that course shell and you want to set it up right before you start a class. So yes, so next month, if you want to know exactly how to create a course from scratch, that is month's session. This month is important information too, though, especially if you're an instructor, because it's going to talk, we're going to talk about, now it probably should be good for my next slide. This is what we're going to look at. We're going to look at customizing your course. How do you take it from the boring, static thing that you get right when you open it up, and how do you make it pretty? How do you make it user-friendly for your instructors? How do you change the colors? I'm going to also show you a couple little tricks that I use when hopping back and forth to different courses if you have multiple on board and you don't want to go to your course list all the time. I'm also going to discuss managing course enrollment. We briefly talked about creating new user accounts last month when we talked about user roles, and I'm going to go a little bit over that again. In your guides, I also have the instructions on what is needed for batch enrollments, which is how to enroll multiple students at a time, especially if you have large courses and you want to get a lot of students in and you don't want to have to do it one at a time. Also about course availability. This is important if, say, you're getting your course set up and you don't yet want your students to see what you're doing, you can make the course not available until you are ready to, and we're going to look at that. Also setting up notifications, so that way you get an email every time something changes in the course, which includes when your students are releasing content. That is your adaptive releases. And I can send the guide again. I sent out an email with the guide in it. I know email is down. And I had a PDF up here. Let me see if I can post the Google Doc. And I can send that. It's in the bottom left to download on my screen. So you still have that download. If for some of you, it might be in a little left-hand window, and it should be available for download in a PDF. If not, I can do the link to the Google Doc that I created in, and I'll post it right here. So that is a link to the Google Doc if you can get access to it. Okay, and then finally, customizing your grade center. This is an important thing because a lot of people don't really, say you create an assignment and you go into the grade center and your columns are all out of order. They're not in the order that you want them to be. You can't find things, and you want to organize them in the order that you want it to be. I'm going to show you how to do that today. And I'm also going to show you how to color code your grade center so that it will show up. You can code it so that if you have students turning assignments, it turns one color. And if you have certain students that are below a grade point average, then you can code it for that color. And that makes it really easy for your instructors because it's a easy at what needs to be done in that grade center, and especially if you have students who are below that percentage, then you can identify them right away and go and do that counseling. So these are all just quick tips that I like to use for my courses. And both IDLE and AOL, I have my grade center color coded, and it really gives me an idea of what needs to be done. Right now my grade center is red because I have a lot of things that need to grade, but it makes it really easy to identify what you need to do. All right, so first let's look at customizing your course. There are two main areas, and the first one is selecting the course entry points. This is where the students are going to, what page they're going to see when they first enter the course. So your default course entry point is the home page. So whenever that course is created, the automatic default is going to be your home page. And I'll show you what the default looks like here. Go over and do the screen share. You are able to change that home page. We also call this the landing page, and it quite literally is what you're going to see. So you can be able to choose where your students enter on that document. And then also your course entry point is accessible from the teaching style page. So if you have your webinar, you will see that it gives you a rundown of how to access that. So your teaching style link is actually located in the course. So all of this happens within the course. None of this is going to be happening from the admin page. It's all within that course shell. So under your control panel in the course, you are going to be looking for teaching style, and that is where all of your customizations are going to occur. Also within that teaching style, you can apply themes. So if you're wondering, can I change the color of my menu? How can I add buttons as opposed to links, as well as creating a banner? So if you like that pretty at the top of your course, this is where you would add the banner. So the menu style is what you see here, and also here you can choose between buttons or text. When we talk about default content area, the default content area is whether you want to have the cute little icons next to the titles or whether you want it to just be text. So some people like to have the little icons, so because it kind of indicates whether it's an item, whether it is a link, whether it's a module or a folder. Or if you are going to eliminate those and it's just the words, it won't show you what type of container that information is in. So remember, the very first webinar, we talked about different containers. So those little icons are going to indicate what exactly that container is, whether it's a link or just a document. So my intent is, because a lot of this is really beneficial if I show you, but I wanted to just give you a brief overview of what it is that we're going to be doing. So managing course enrollment. Here we're going to look at creating users, finding users to enroll, batch enrolling users, list and manage users, and enrollment options. With this, I really want to focus on the information. This is a little more difficult to show, and it's the instructions that I've included in the webinar guide are really going to assist, especially with the batch enroll users. So when you are creating users, you can actually do this within the course. So everything that I'm showing you today can happen in the course. And unfortunately, I want to try and do a screen share, but if I do a screen share, it's going to take up your whole screen and you won't be able to see any of the information that I'm showing on the slides. So I want to just I'm going to go over this, and then we are going to go and take a journey into the sandbox so I can show you exactly what I'm talking about here. So creating users, this is where you can actually either enroll an existing user, or you can select create user and create a brand new account to enroll them into the course. Now, when you are creating a user, you also want to select what role they are going to be within the course, as well as availability. When you select availability, whether it's available or not available, that's going to be a determinant of whether they will be able to see any of the content in your course. One of the tools that I like to use is that I will create a user account, I will enroll them in the course, but I will make them unavailable. So that way it's a time management piece so that you can continue doing what you need to do, but you don't have to worry about enrolling all of your students prior to the start, and you can make last minute changes. And then you can make it available, make the students available in the course right at the course start. Another method we use is, so in IDLE, we use our students, and we make all of our students unavailable, and as they send in their student agreement to us, we make them available. So it's kind of like your student agreement is the golden ticket into the course, and once we get that, you're made available and you can see what you need to complete the content. Yes, so you can make both unavailable, and I'm actually going to talk about making a course unavailable here in a minute. But yes, you can either make the course or the students unavailable. And it's a really great tool, especially if, say you have a student who's not doing what they need to. Oh, you're welcome. And you don't necessarily want to delete them or disenroll them from the course, but you do not want them to have access to the material until you figure out whatever issue you're having. The easiest thing to do is to make them unavailable. And it's a simple fix in the user page. You just edit their profile in the user page and just make them unavailable. And immediately they will not be able to see any content. So I've had students who have not, like maybe they're not doing what they're supposed to. I will click that unavailable button. They don't have access to that content anymore, but everybody else does. And then once we've come to an understanding, then I make the content available again. So yes, so the unavailability works on a user base level or on a course level. Again, this is talking about finding users to enroll. When you go to the user page in your course under groups and users, you can locate who you want to enroll by clicking browse. And Kathleen puts sort of a timeout. Yes, you kind of put them in a little timeout until they do what they're supposed to for that unavailability. So once you go and you want to enroll students, This is a kind of a little bit of a workaround because I have found that if you are looking to enroll students and they are not under your node, I have found that sometimes you are able to bypass that node issue if you are trying to enroll students through this route. It almost allows you to find users on a wider scale than what your administrator rights allow for. Not always the case, so don't hold me to that as a hard and fast, but a lot of times when you make a search query, that they will show up regardless of what node they fall under. Now, again, this is not always the case, but but again, going to users to enroll through the course rather than through the admin page will sometimes open up the availability of users that you'll be able to see. Also, you'll know, say if you have a large number of students that you're trying to enroll and you're not sure if you enrolled them or not, if you do a search query for a certain student and they're not showing up, they may already be enrolled in the course because they're not going to show up if they're already. Here we talk about batch enroll users. So this adds multiple users to a course at one time. Great for those of you large scale courses with a large input. So if you have 100 students that are in your course, using the batch enroll is a great option for you. There are instructions in your user guide that tell you exactly what you need to do, and it also provides you the information and the format in which you're going to need to add those students, and it's going to be done on a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet, and then you upload that into for the batch enroll process. There is actually a button in when you're enrolling. There is a button that says batch enroll, and it'll walk you through the steps of what you need to do. One thing to remember though is you cannot change a user record using the batch enroll process. So if they need to do a name change or anything like that, you're going to have to do it manually, and you cannot do it if you're doing batch enroll. All right, another thing that you can do. So in the user page, it shows all users in the course by accessing your user page. All you do is you click users and then you'll select go, and it'll give you an almost like a roster of who is enrolled in the course. It'll show you what the user's role is in the course, what their availability is in the course. When you click on the user's name, each name is going to have like one of those little down arrows next to it. And if you look at the list here on the slide, this will tell you what settings you can edit. So you can change the user's password. So I know I've had many questions on how do I change a person's password if they forget it. So this is the way that you can do it. All you do is click change user's password. It'll give you a simple page with 2 spaces. One, the top one is the new password, and the second one is where you're going to confirm their password. And then you can send it to them. Changing a user's role in a course. So if you have someone who's a student and you want to change them to an instructor or vice versa, you can do that right there on that page. Also availability, we already talked about that. It's right there on that link. It says make user available, make user unavailable. It'll be, as soon as you click it, it'll be an immediate switch. You can also remove users from course. I don't recommend removing users until after the course has ended, or if you know for sure that they are going to be a part of that course, because once you remove a user, if they have done any kind of threaded discussions, it's going to show as a once you pull them out of that. No, a user cannot have multiple roles simultaneously. That is a great question. So a user can only have one role at a time. The only other workaround for this is if, say, if you want to enroll yourself as a student in the course, you will have to create a separate account and enroll yourself as a student, and then have your primary account with you enrolled as an instructor. But unfortunately, no, it only allows you to have one role at a time. Great question, though. You're welcome. Options. So if you're going on the properties page under your control panel, under customization, you're going to see that you can have the option on the types of enrollment. So you have two types of enrollment in the course. You have instructor system administrator enrollment, or you have self-enrollment. And instructor system administrator enrollment is what we do. So that is what you generally want to utilize if you want to have control over who is entering your course. Does the Air Force pay per enrolled user? Another great question. So that is how they track our licenses, and they track it based on students enrolled in our courses. So believe it or not, the actual courses that we create, like a course copy after a course copy after of your original course shell, that doesn't track as in anything. It is based on how many users that we have enrolled in the system. It's not necessarily per course, but it is per user. So if you want the specifics on how our licensing works, though, I definitely would call AETC headquarters and talk to Gordon, and he can probably outline how it is priced. And that is one of the things that they've kind of highlighted. Fail. I'll spell it out for you. So he is currently he's the interim AETC admin for Blackboard, but he's also the one that kind of pays for it all. He oversees that entire section. So he would be a great person to talk to you about how they calculate or track licensing for users. So it's something that he could probably answer way better than I can. All right, continuing on our two types of enrollment. So again, your instructor system administrator, and it definitely gives you more control of who is of who can actually enroll in your course. So there's a question that says, is there a recommended method? Is one usually better than the other? And the question is regarding the enrollment options. I would say it is really dependent on what type of course you have. So for example, any of your formal courses, I would say that you want to have instructor enrollments, because that gives you control over who is enrolled in your course, especially if you have a limited number of quote unquote seats. Self-enrollment is good if you have a course that is maybe self-paced and it doesn't really matter how many people are in the course. For example, I have the Section 508 compliance course on Blackboard that is a self-enrollment. If you click on it, it asks you if you want to enroll. You click it and automatically you're enrolled. So that allows a self-enrollment where learners can actually just click on it, and they can also, it's entirely on them. I don't have anything to do with it. I just track the data. Other options for self-enrollment is you can set start dates and end dates to control the time frame when students can self-enroll. And another thing you can do is if you want to allow them to self-enroll where you don't have to really worry about it, you can have an access code where they can only enroll with the access code. However, if you want total control and you want to completely limit how many people are in that course, I would highly suggest instructor or system administrator enrollment. Great question, though. Lots of great questions today. I really. All right, so making the course available to students. I can probably go through this pretty fast because I already talked about this. So we talked about availability at the user level. Let's look at course availability at the overall course level. So your course must be made available before students enroll in the course can view or access the course and the content. And the availability of content can actually be done for each component that you add within your course as well. But your course availability, you can, whenever you are creating your course shell, and I will show you guys this next month, it will ask you if you want to make it available. And if you select no, you're going to see a little red X next to it. And you'll see here in the picture where it says not currently available. That is how it's going to show up. So if you look at it in your course list or in your administrator, it's going to show a little red X next to the course. So that will mean that it is not available. If there's no red X, that means it's available. And your course list will show what you see here. It won't have the red X in your course list on your front page. It'll just say not currently available. This is a great way for you to create a course shell and begin enrolling students, but still have the flexibility to make changes before the class start date without anybody seeing it. So it still allows you to work behind the curtain without going on stage, so to speak, for all of your links or the things that you don't want people to see available. So I like using this quite a bit and will make things unavailable until I really want it to. So it really gives you more control over the situation, I guess you could say. All right, again, that was really quick. Setting up notifications. So there are a lot of slides, but I'm going to go through a lot of these really quick so I can get to the demonstration. Notifications. This to me is a very important thing because it allows you to see what's going on in your course if you can't be in your course. So we're going to go really quick over notifications about course activity, as well as allowing email alerts for new discussion posts. So when I talk course activity, this is really good for if you are the administrator and you have other people that you are working with in a course, you can set up your notifications so that if you see someone add content, if you see a student submit an assignment, anything will send you a notification via your email so that way you are alerted if something is changing in your course. For me, that's just a good indicator because I just cannot be in my courses 100% of the time, especially like right now where I'm teaching the analysis of online learning, the fully asynchronous course that there is no live session with the instructor. All the students are going at their own pace. But it lets me know when students are posting, when they're submitting assignments, if any of my other instructors are making changes, it'll send me notifications as well. So that way, once I'm alerted, it lets me know, okay, I need to get in that course. You can receive automatic alerts for my Blackboard. You can receive email, text, and voice messages, homepage modules, as well as See, I'm on a roll and I'm cutting out. Can you guys hear me? Test, test. Test. Okay, I'm good. See, maybe I'm got all excited and it just couldn't keep up with my excitement. Okay, I'll keep moving. So as you can see, your notifications dashboard, it'll show all of this information, and also your notifications happening will also show up on your homepage of your course if you have the modules set up. So new discussion posts. So one of the things I hit hard on this because one of the important factors of being an engaging online instructor is trying to get in those discussions and knowing that when people are posting, also knowing when students are participating maybe in a discussion that you have already posted in, or if you've responded to somebody and you want to know if they respond to you back, you can email alerts for your new discussion posts. The biggest thing that I utilize this for is in both of my courses, I have a help forum. So if students have questions, then I want to make sure that I can subscribe to that forum and get a notification if they post a question, and I can get to that question as quickly as possible. So when you set up your discussions, you have the ability to set it up to allow members to subscribe to a forum. And I always encourage my students to do this as well so that they know when people are responding to them in their thread posts. So this is a setting in a discussion post that allows you to get notifications when new posts occur. All right, releasing content. This is your release. We have two ways that we can release content, and we're also going to discuss the rules and criteria as it relates to that content. So your two ways to content are your basic adaptive release and also your advanced adaptive release. So you have types of rules: basic adaptive and advanced adaptive. Your basic adaptive is you can add and edit one rule for a single piece of content. So this also, the single rule may have multiple criteria. And when you add adaptive release rules, what this means is the students have to complete a certain item in order to be able to view a certain set of content. So it gives you control over how fast or slow the students go. A lot of this can be done by, and this is where we go into our criteria, so you can do it by maybe you don't want content released until a certain day. Membership, and this is talking about group membership, so maybe only certain members of a group can see certain content. Also a grade. So in CDR, they use this where you have to get like a 70 or above in order to see the next set of content. And that ensures that the students go through the course at a specific pace. And then finally, review status. So this is great if maybe you want students to review your course criteria and they can't see anything. You want control over when they'll see it. So it's a good motivator to review certain things because they can't see items until they review content, and it's a little button that says review. And many of you might, if you have taken online courses, then this will be something that is in those courses. You'll see a little review button. All right, so this is our last main point. And this is customizing the Grade Center. And we're probably going to go a little past 1 since we kind of got started late due to all of our technical difficulties. So just so you all know, if you're watching the clock and we're getting down and you're not wondering how we're going to make it, I'll probably go past 1 due to all the technical issues we had up front. All right, so our topics in customizing Grade Center. We're going to look at the Grade Center itself and navigating it and getting it set up, and as far as also its different components, as well as organizing your columns in the Grade Center. This is a biggie because this was something that I was not aware of when I first started developing in Blackboard, and that your Grade Center, if you add assignments, the Grade Center is developed, or your columns are developed in the order that you create those assignments. So it doesn't read your mind as to how you want it ordered. It's just going to auto-populate as you add things. So if you add a bunch of things in order and then you go back and add something else, it's going to tack that column on at the end. So I'm going to show you how to organize that Grade Center column so that it's in the order that you want it to be. And then finally, we're going to look at color coding the grade data. So Grade Center can be accessed under your course, your control panel in your course. And to see the full Grade Center, you're going to literally click the link here that you see that's full Grade Center. When that grid is going to show up that has all of your names populated. And in addition to the sandbox, I will show you a live Grade Center in AOL so you can see what it looks like. So your Grade Center function. So you have 2 rows in the Grade Center, and I have a great picture in the user guide here of all the rows. These are very large photos, which is why they're not in the slides. So you have several rows, or 2 rows, and you have several functions that appear in the first row. So you have create column. So if you want to simply create a column to track maybe some external data that's not associated with an assignment, you can do that. So for instance, we do that in IDLE. Actual assignment created for attending our live sessions, we had to manually create a column so that we can track our students and just give them credit when they attend that. You can create a calculated column. So this will create a menu with options to create something that's calculated as part of the total grade. You can manage, where you have options to include grading periods, schemas, categories, color coding, road visibility. So your manage button does a lot. That's where you have your column organization. We've gotten a lot of questions on how do we track student data, or how can we track student scores and participation. That is all under reports. So I'm planning on doing a session running reports and how to track test data and things like that using that reports filter. Your filter button, it will narrow your view of the Grade Center data, so that way you can expand the field and select options from like current view, specific categories, a certain status, and you can also show that don't contribute to the user's grade. So if you have things like a demographic worksheet or an appraisal, something that is sat or unsat, where maybe you just have a check mark or a 0, that is something you can filter by as well. And then finally, the work offline filter, it will allow you to download an Excel spreadsheet of the Grade Center so that you can keep a copy of it. And it'll even allow you to download the grades. Now, if you want to access a Grade Center menu, so each column is going to have its own menu, and you'll see a picture here. At the top of each Grade Center column, it has this little gray arrow, and if you click on that, it'll show this long list of all the things that you can do for that column. And you can see there are a ton of options. So column statistics, a lot of times I will use column statistics to see what your average is. It brings up how many people have participated, what your average grade is, and it will literally give you for that column. Another example is attempt statistics. So if you're using a survey, and it will not allow you to see a specific student's attempt for that survey. In order to see what the results are for that survey, you would select attempt statistics, and that will give you all the results for whatever that survey is. An assignment, it will give you attempt statistics, like how long, what the average time was spent, what the average grade is, things like that. So download the results. Pretty much there is the option to download hard copies of a lot of these areas. And as I mentioned, you have all these different, if you look in your webinar guide, you have a nice little chart in there that literally has what the function is of each of these items in that chart. So it'll tell you what every single one does. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time going over every single one. All right, so your Grade Center icon legend. In your Grade Center, it has a lot of little icons to give you an indication of what has been done or what is pending. So this little legend will let you know, okay, so what does that yellow circle with an exclamation point mean? Okay, that means needs grading. What is the little timetable, little blue dot mean? That means that an attempt is in progress. All of these will you what is going on in the column with that student. If a grade has been exempted, if grade has been completed, usually you're going to see a green check mark if you have something that's sat or unsat, and that will indicate that that's been done. So I like this little legend. It really gives you an idea of what all of those little icons mean, especially if you're newer to using Blackboard and all of a sudden you see all these little symbols pop up and you're overwhelmed. You can keep this little legend and it'll tell you what's going on. It allows you to troubleshoot. All right, so finally, organizing columns in the Grade Center. There is a magic button under Manage that will allow you to organize your columns, and it is a drag and drop, so you can literally move your columns around to the order that you want so it matches the flow of your course. You can also hide columns. You cannot delete columns, but you can freeze or unfreeze columns in your first table. So if you have certain things at the front that you don't want to move, this will allow you to freeze them. And also something to keep in mind is this is going to change, what you change in the Grade Center is also going to change in the students' My Grade section. So what you see there is also how your students are going to see it when they look up what their grades are. And then finally, color code grade data. This is where you can create rules to apply color to data in the Grade Center, and it provides visual indicators to help you interpret information. So for online instructors, a lot of times we don't have a whole lot of time, and we really want to be able to have a quick look at what is going on And so having the color coding is a great way to do that. So even though you have the little yellow dots that are an indicator that something needs grading, when you turn it red that it needs to be graded, that kind of lets you know, okay, I have this whole row of things that need to be graded, and it's kind of more of a motivator, at least for me, and it may be for you all as well. So it's a great way to personalize that grade center, something that is easy to use for you. As I said, by if you create a rule that it turns a certain color if it's a below maybe 70%, then that can also make sure that you or remind you to reach out to them and say, listen, this assignment did not meet the standard, so we're going to need to have you redo it. Or if it's something where it's a test, then they're going to need to be washed back. And it helps you go through that process of student management. All right, so that is our slide presentation. I'm going to pull up our desktop sharing. No, so the students do not see the color coding. That is purely for the instructors. The students are just going to see the score on their end. And another thing that I do like to do, and I didn't bring it up here, is I like to, I have both points and percentage. So if it's below a 70%, then it'll also show us what the percentage is based on the group. All right, so let me go. And if you give me just a minute, I'm going to be pulling this up. All right, can you all see, it should be my DCS dashboard right now. Can you all see that? Got a yes, yes. Outstanding. All right, so I am moving over and you should see my sandbox of my home page. So we're going to first go into customization of your home page. So I personally, and it's going to be different for each of you as you are creating your, what you want your students to see when you first enter the course. For some people like me, I like to have my announcements page as my home page, simply because I got important information out there. Yeah, ignore my 500 messages, okay? I have a lot of courses that I get notifications on. So I like my announcements to be where everybody lands, simply because that is where all the important information is. I like to, you don't see it? Does anyone else not see my home page? Alt tab to big blue button. Okay. So Mr. Natty put in a fix for that to see if you need to see a screen. Okay, I'm gonna keep moving forward. So again, I like to use my announcements simply because I kind of use that as my newsfeed in my course. And any important information that I put out, that should be the first thing that I want students to see when they enter my course. It's going to be different for everybody. If you want to have the homepage and use that where you have you want your students to have their notifications, because as you can see for the homepage has different modules on here where you can let students know that they have several announcements, where you can create a to-do list for them, or even let them know what needs attention. So you can keep this as your homepage, but if you want to change it, I'm going to show you what you need to do that. Now, when you are in editor mode, you're going to have your control panel on the bottom left-hand side here. So this is where you're going to have all of that back office things on accessing your grade center, which is here to the left, and also your customization, which is where we're going to focus right now. So in order to change your homepage, you're going to go to Teaching Style. Teaching Style is then going to take you to this page that will allow you to make a lot of different edits to your course. One of them is course structure. I originally had that in your guide. However, I made the decision to remove it simply because it can be confusing, and it's easiest just to allow you to develop your own structure based on the needs of your course. It can get very complicated. However, if you go into the help site in the help.blackboard.com, there's an entire section on course structure. Where we're going to focus on is select course entry point. Right now, you can see where it simply says entry point is home. If you want to change it, you click on the drop-down box, and it'll give you several options on where you can have the students enter at when they enter your course. So if you want it to be announcements, like I like to do, you click on announcements, and then once you click submit, it'll change it. However, while we're on this page, I want to touch on a couple other items. So your next item down is select course theme. Here you're going to see a lot of fun templates that have all kinds of different pretty colors. And I will tell you that each color is also associated with kind of a theme. So for instance, in IDLE, the color that we chose is actual digital learning. There's the cool little starburst. You have one that's very patriotic that you have where it says America. The steel is in for just a basic black background. But if you look at all the colors, they have a pattern associated with it. So if we pick inspiration, what it's going to do is it's not just going to change the background, it's also going to change the color of your font, and it's also going to change the color of like the bars, the headers in your template. Now the next section is select menu style. So we briefly talked about this. Right now it's showing you a preview of what your menu looks like. So you can see that my items are all this pretty blue color, and the color actually changed when I changed the template style, so you can see what it's going to look like. And right now I have it selected as text. If I want buttons, once you select the button, it's going to pull up the button and give you a whole just library of different colors of buttons. You can also select if you want a pattern, and you can select if you want solid. And then you can also select if you want rounded corners. you want it rectangular or if you want rounded ends. So you can really get creative. I personally like to keep mine as text. It's just a lot simpler and it's cleaner. So you can get really creative and wild if you want. Just remember that too bright of colors can be very distracting. And if you've been through IDLE, that is what we call extraneous cognitive load, extra to what you're trying to get across to your students. So just keep that in mind. If you do get really crazy with some of your colors, they can get a little bright. It can be very distracting to your students. And Mr. Natty he said, I found the buttons don't hold a lot of text. They don't expand to fit longer link titles. That is correct. The button sizes are static and they will not auto expand to match your text. So if you want to use the button, you want to use it, you're going to have shorter titles. If you want text that wraps, if you just have a text link, it will wrap the title. So that's usually the ideal one. Now you can also change the background of your menu. Right now I have it transparent, so it's just gray. But if I were to change it to, say, green, ooh, that's a really bright. That would be very distracting. We'll do a white. You hit apply, and then you have your text color, and then it'll put that there. Now, I talked about default view. This is those cute little icons in text. I'm going to put icon in text so you guys can see what it looks like. If you make this change after you've already built content, you're going to want to click apply this view to all existing content, and it will apply it to anything you've already created, so you don't have to go through and manually change every single item. Then the final thing here is select banner. So this is where you can make those pretty little banners. And I'm like creative. I like making pretty. So I like to do that. So all you have to do is create a banner. You can make it doing any kind of graphic software. You can actually create a banner. And I used to do this originally on PowerPoint. And there's a way that you can do it where if you go up in your design section in PowerPoint, you can actually customize your slide to a banner, and it's just about the right size for your banner in Blackboard. And I actually have found a tutorial on this that I can send out to all of you if that's something you're interested in. All right, so I added a picture, and now let's see what this looks like. I'm going to click submit. And now you can see, voila, it has changed. I have all these pretty colors in the background. Okay, someone that wants that tutorial, I will send that to you. So now we can go to the home page. Actually, what I'm going to do. Oh, see, my banner is really big. So it takes some finessing with your banner. Sometimes it's a little bigger than you want, so I've had to scale it down quite a bit. Oh, there it is. Okay, so you can see there's my announcements page. So I don't have any announcements on there yet, but once I do add announcements here, that'll be the first thing that everybody sees once they enter my course. So the other thing is you know which page is your home page or your landing page, because that's where your banner is going to be at. So whatever you decide as your home page is where your banner is going to be posted. So because you want that to be part of what your students see right away. All right, so next thing on the docket That was one of the big things I wanted to show you guys. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of bypass your adaptive release. I am going to go straight to the Grade Center. And for that, I am going to do AOL. I'm going to show you all, this is not in the guide, but since you guys can see my screen, I'm going to show you a quick little trick that I like to use if navigating between multiple courses. So first I'm going to go to my Grade Center. I'm going to click on Full Grade Center. And I'm not going to have anything in there right now because I don't have any assignments created in the assignment area. However, say I want to go to another course. If you look in your upper left-hand column, upper left part of your course, you're going to see a little house. Next to that little house is a little drop-down arrow. If you click that arrow, it's going to give you a list of all of the courses that you have in your course list. And the most recent courses that you've been in are going to be at the top. Well, I currently have an AOL. When I click on AOL, it's going to take me to the exact same page AOL. This is really handy if you are developing multiple courses and you're hopping back and forth between those courses and you don't want to have to go to your course list every time and try and locate it. So this is an active grade center. You can see how I have my colors. Yes, they're all red. I have a lot of grading to do right now. But the main thing that I wanted to show you is the column organization, because that is a pretty hot button item. Yes, I know, Michael, you need grades. Michael's right now in AOL. So know that, yes, I know I need to grade your stuff. Okay, so we're going to go to column organization under the manage. And you're going to see this screen. Everything that is in the top is your frozen column. So right now I've just got the last name and the first name frozen. Also, another one that you want to keep in there is last access. That's really important from an instructor point of view because it lets you know when your student last logged in and lets you know if you're actually participating. Here you will see that I have all of my stuff already in order. But what if I wanted to move my progress checks around? What if I wanted my week 2 survey before my 4 alpha? So I can drag it and move it. And then once I do that and I click submit, it's going to get in my grade center. And we should be able to see that my, let's see, I moved it to my week 2. My week 2 survey is now in front of my 4A. It's a great way to organize all of your columns the way that you want it to be. Now finally, last thing, and then I know I'm way over time. The last thing is your grading color codes. So grading, you're under your Manage tab, you're going to go to Grading Color Codes. Thing that you want to make sure that you have is you want to make sure that if you want them to actually show up, enable grading color codes, because you could set it, but if that's not checked, it's not going to show up. So a lot of times in Blackboard, a lot of things are simply marking a box, and that is all it is that will make something work or not work. Here you categories that I have. So you have 3 areas that you can add things to. So if you have something in progress and you want to know students working on it, you can make that a color. Mine's orange. If something needs grading, you can make that a certain color. I have red because it catches my attention. And then the other thing that you'll see is that I have criteria, a rule built in, that if I have a student that scores a less than 70%, then the color will be yellow. And that will be a good indicator to me that I need to have a conversation with that student or send them an email and say, listen, wasn't up to the standard. I need you to go back in and redo it. And it really is a tool for the instructor as to what needs to happen. If you are giving access to your instructor supervisors, this is a great tool as well, because then they can see what the student progress is looking like as well. If you are developing CDCs, this is also something that you could utilize if you have, if supervisors have access to their trainees' grades. It can give them an indicator of what their progress is happening in the grade center. And it, just by color coding it, it really makes it easy to see. Privacy and being able to see grades, that is really dependent on who needs to. So I would only give people access to the grade center as to if they, on a need, as needed basis. Last month I talked about the observer role, and that I would look into if you wanted tips on a user level. However, if you have people that are getting access to grades, then you want them to, you really want to be cognizant of how much you want to. Thank you, Lisa. I'm sorry I'm going over. I'm almost done here. I'm going to go ahead and close this out. You really want to be cognizant. Yeah, no access to the Grade Center. Students cannot see this. Thank you, Mr. Ness. Students can only see their own grades. They do not have access to the Grade Center. This is really only a tool for the instructor. So be aware of that. That's the whole purpose for this, is to really give tools for, from the instructor point of view, as far as allowing you to have a more customized experience to make it easier to run your course. Okay, so that is all I have for today, because we went way over time, but I really wanted to show you some of those key details that are a little difficult to just through slides and through your guide. So do you guys have any questions for me before we sign off for the day? You're very welcome. No questions. It's my pleasure. Yes, I will show you how to get in there next month. You are so welcome. And this will be recorded, and once email is working, I will be sending the report. Thank you all for coming. Oh, thank you. I try. Thank you all. I will see you next month.